Okay. In the words of Matthew McConaughey, all right, all right, all right, all right. I finally get to talk about a win here. Game three, of course, a pivotal game in this series, and the Caps get the win 3-2 in double overtime. Both goalies were phenomenal, but that's nothing new for them as they're both Vezina winners. And this was actually the first game in this series that we got to see the battle of the two Vezina Trophy winners, as it was the first game in which Holt-Beast actually got the start. Still cannot wrap my head around that one, but whatever. And Holt-Beast outdueled Bobrovsky in his glorious return to the Caps net, making all of the final saves that he needed to make and not blinking once until his teammate Lars Eller got one past Bobrovsky in the double overtime. And Braden Holt-Beast, what more can we really say about Holt-Beast? He certainly did not blink in this must-win game. In fact, I don't even know if that dude has eyelids. And his performance was so key to the Caps getting the win in enemy territory. Like I mentioned in my last video, Braden Holt-Beast coming back to the net is the main reason to believe that the Caps can come back in this series. And I tried to tell you guys, that we should have started him in game one. I know, the regular season didn't go so well for a few weeks there, but I don't give a fuck about the regular season. The regular season is the regular season, and the playoffs are the motherfucking playoffs, and there's nobody better in the playoffs in the National Hockey League since he came into the league than Braden Holt-Beast. He has the lowest goals against average and the highest save percentage among all active goaltenders in the NHL currently, and second all time in National Hockey League history. That's 100 years of history, and he is number 2 all time in both categories, goals against average and save percentage. Braden Holt-Beast. We should have started him in game 1. We really should have started him in game 2, but here we are. He's got us back in the series, so it's water under the bridge at this point. He's got us back in the series now, and that is all that matters. And of course, Holt-Beast's historically low 2.00 goals against average in the playoffs, or actually it's dropped even more to 1.98 after this game. That goals against average was a factor in this game because Holt-Beast himself has said that he has this theory that so long as he's keeping his goals against average at or below 2 goals per game, then with the offensive firepower that his team can throw out up front, he knows that his team is winning most of the games where he keeps his goals against either at or below 2 goals per game. And so that's what he has done. That's what he's done throughout his entire career. He's been remarkably consistent at it, really. And it's not like he's having one shutout and then following up that shutout with a 4 goal against game, so it all evens out to 2. No, he consistently allows 2 goals against or fewer in just about every game that he plays in the playoffs. In fact, of his 61 career games in the postseason, I looked this up, he has allowed 2 goals against or fewer in a whopping 40 of those games. So roughly 2 out of every 3 games, Holt-Beast either lets in 2 goals, lets in 1 goal, or gets a shutout. That's just stellar. I don't know what else you can really say about that. Anyways, his 2 goals against or fewer thing held true on Tuesday night, and it was essential to the Caps getting the win on enemy ice. As I said, it's not just about the number of saves, but it's about the timing of those saves, and he outdueled Bobrovsky in the game, and especially in overtime, as the Holt-Beast stopped the final 17 shots he faced, including 9 in overtime after Artemi Panarin's rush goal tied the game in the 3rd period. So yeah, the first star of the game for me was definitely Braden Holt-Beast. A couple of other things of note in this game. Alex Ovechkin, he delivers in a big way on his promise to Capitals fans that the boys would be coming back to Washington for a Game 5 on Saturday, and that the series will be tied at 2 games apiece when they do. Part 2 of that promise, of course, is still yet to be determined. We'll find out on Thursday, but he's already made good on Part 1, as with the Caps' double overtime win on Tuesday night, there will be a Game 5 in Washington. That much we do know. And as I said, Ovi didn't leave his promise up to chance, as he contributed 2 points, 2 assists. He contributed points on 2 of the Caps' 3 goals, so he was a big factor 8 is great, indeed. We know this. We saw it again on Tuesday night, and this next point is subjective, but the Caps, to me, looked like the better conditioned team in overtime, and I noticed it more the longer that the game went on. In the second overtime frame, especially, the Caps looked like they were skiing downhill against the Jackets, tilting the ice and out-attempting the Jackets 13-4 and out-shooting them 8-2 right up until Lars Eller scored the game winner at the 9-minute mark. So it's not as if the Caps were running up the shot clock on low-quality chances either. I know sometimes the shot clock can be a little bit misleading, but that was not the case here, as the Caps had 8 scoring chances to the Jackets 1 in the second overtime frame, and also got the better of the high danger chances as well, 4-0. So nothing going on for the Jackets in the final and deciding period. So pretty much complete domination when the game and quite possibly the season was on the line. The Caps' depth was a factor in this game, as the Caps' third line tilted the ice all night long, like Lionel Richie, out-attempting the Jackets 26-13. Deservedly, they were on the ice and had a front row seat for the game-winning goal. I think depth moving forward is going to be a huge factor in this series, as not only was the Caps' third line completely dominant, but the thing about the Caps is they roll 4 lines. They just roll 4 lines. John Tortorella, he does not use his bottom 6 forwards as much. He doesn't have as much trust in them as Barry Trotz has in his bottom 6. So you can definitely see it in the overtime games that the Caps just, they look fresher, they look quicker than the Jackets do. And I said that the Caps looked like the better conditioned team in the overtime, and that it was more and more noticeable the longer that the game went on. This could also be a factor, the fact that John Tortorella doesn't really like to use his bottom 6 forwards as much, whereas Barry Trotz just rolls 4 lines, keeps everybody fresh. So something to watch moving forward if more of these games are going to go to overtime, which they probably will because it's the Capitals. So after Game 2, I talked about how one of my keys for the Caps to turn this series around was more discipline and fewer penalties. Well, the Caps did not take fewer penalties in game number 3, but they did do a much better job on the penalty kill, which is basically the same thing and has the same effect. This improvement, of course, included a massive penalty kill in overtime. I would tell you how they were able to pull it off, except that I was too busy pacing around with my head buried in my hoodie to be able to offer any sort of expert analysis. NHL playoff overtime, it's the best thing in the world when your team is not playing. It's horrible when your team is involved in the game. Just nonstop heart attacks. And this was no exception, obviously. I don't think it ever really gets any easier as a fan. It's funny, actually. I've always found that playing hockey, like, you're so much more calm when you're in the game yourself and you're on the ice, because you have a lot of control over the outcome, especially myself being a goalie. You really get to control what happens, if you're going to win, if you're going to lose. But as a fan, it sucks because you don't have any control over what's going to go on, other than some weird superstitions that we might do. The Jackets, going back to the power play penalty kill, the Jackets, on the other hand, for some reason felt the desire to chop 2 of the Caps' sticks in half and put the Caps' vaunted power play on a 5-on-3. Not a good idea. Predictably, the Caps made them pay, and man, oh man, John Carlson is going to cost us a lot of money this summer. He scored a goal on the 5-on-3. He's got 7 points already in 3 games of this series. Anyways, with that win by the Caps in Game 3, the pressure shifts back now a little bit onto the Columbus Blue Jackets, as you can bet that they're well aware that they would be ill-advised to go back to Washington Tide. So despite the 2 overtime losses at home, the Caps are a totally different beast at Capital One Arena, and the Blue Jackets know that. They're not stupid. I doubt that they want to keep testing fate, so game number 4, just as game number 3 was, is a big one, and that will go on Thursday night. Hope to see you all there.